Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us for another edition of Hold My Drink, where we navigate the news and politics with a chaser of civility. I'm your host, Jen, inviting you to grab your favorite beverage, sit back, and imagine with us how to create a new American identity together. Welcome to another week of Hold My Drink. This week I've got Finn joining me again
Hi, everyone.
because he asked me a really important question last week after our last podcast, and I wanted him on again to discuss it. So, first question is, Finn, what's in your cup?
Well, nothing. You didn't make me anything, so.
Child, you are 16 years old. You know how to make your own hot chocolate. You know, in 2 years, you're going to be going to college and you're going to have to actually fend for yourself.
Well, looks like today I'm holding knowledge.
Okay, well,
Sure,
well,
right?
it's happy hour, so I actually brought wine this time. So,
That doesn't surprise me.
well, you'll just have to sit there and watch. So, yeah, last week you asked me an important question about Amy Coney Barrett. So Finn came home from school and asked my opinion on him. He was really concerned about Amy Coney Barrett, and I really hadn't given it so much thought. So you want to give us a little introduction on what you're thinking?
Yeah, she just worries me because there's a lot of red flags. It was one of the first times in history they've elected a Supreme Court justice without waiting for the results of the election, which is not only against tradition, it's also very rude. And especially considering, he lost the election.
I don't think politics are supposed to necessarily. I mean,
Well, I think it's rude.
okay, all right,
Well, I think it's rude, and it
rude
doesn't matter.
politics.
Clearly, I mean, it's legal, but still. Um, and so it's against tradition, and just her character in and of itself. And I've read quite a few articles on both sides so far. Just bugs me. Her relationship with the church. While I'm a Christian myself, I forget the name of the mom. Do you remember the name?
As a people of peace, does that
Oh,
sound right?
it's like the people of, yeah,
I think that's it.
the
People of
people of peace
peace,
or
right?
something like that. And her relationship with they're just a very strange organization. I wouldn't call them a cult. I did say that to mom in a moment of anger, but I wouldn't call them a cult. I don't think they're a cult, but I do think they're very involved and they require a lot of involvement from their members, and it worries me that a member is now holding one of the highest offices besides the presidency, of course, in our country.
Isn't that though religious discrimination?
Oh, hell yeah. It is, and
So
I admit to it. But the thing is, while I am being that, while I do want to, concede that that is not something that's reasonable, there's a difference between religious discrimination, which is what I was just accused of, and what.
you were gently asked.
Yes, and I agreed because I hadn't given my full statement yet. So at this point, yes. But what what's important to note is that we do have a separation of church and state, and what is asked from the members of the people of peace, and what is
The
asked
people of
of
peace being
her,
the
yeah.
group that Amy
I mean,
Coney Barrett is. Okay.
what is asked of the people that belong to the people of peace, and what is asked of the Supreme Court justice does not directly contradict each other, but it is worrying that the beliefs that are held by the people of peace um, do not are not unilateral, and that is fair. That there's Republicans and Democrats, but I just think it's a little bit suspicious, and I don't really approve of it.
Aren't unilateral. I'm not sure that I know what you mean by that. But one of the things that I think so many people who do like her liked is she is what they call an originalist. So she really is about interpreting the Constitution. And one of the things that I read about her was that she would recuse herself on certain issues if she thought her religion would affect her judgment. And I found that to be really impressive. She would,
Yeah.
so that one of the big fears is Roe versus Wade, it's abortion.
Well,
Now, I
that's
don't
a
know if you
reason.
can actually recuse yourself when you're a Supreme Court judge, but the idea that she's so against or she's so for the separation of church and state that she is in the past and has professed that she would recuse herself if she thought that her religion would have an influence on her judgment. So in that way, I think that she seems pretty.
Yeah. The thing is, a couple things. Interpretation. like how she tries to interpret it. That's what everyone does is try to
Mm-hmm.
interpret the Constitution. The whole difference in the political parties is that we do it in different ways, and also the Republican Party itself, while it is also a shared common Christian belief, does not like the idea of abortion. And when she was asked about
Well,
it,
wait. May I interrupt you for a second?
yes,
I wouldn't say that Christianity is a shared Republican belief.
no, they share that belief. Christianity and most Republicans, most Christians and most Republicans. As a Christian myself, I don't believe that.
Okay, I would say that Republicans are much more diverse. But carry on with your thought. Well, let's go with your thought.
The majority, I would say.
Okay,
I
I
think
don't
that's
even know
fair to
that.
say.
But okay.
The stereotypical.
All right.
Would you? May I say that?
Yes, you may say the
Okay.
stereotypical.
The stereotypical.
Or on average,
yes,
perhaps.
on average is probably
all right. Okay.
For here. So on average, the Republicans and Christians are not big fans of abortion, of which she is both. And there is also the worry that I mean, myself, when I have two conflicting things in my head or two things that agree with something in my head, I most certainly will try to justify something with any means necessary if it's something I want to believe. Now, you can say she recuses herself about her Christian beliefs when she finds it interrupting her thoughts. First of all, I would say, probably shouldn't be interrupting her thoughts. She's the Supreme Court justice at all. But it is also true that she's a Republican, and the Republicans are not the biggest fans of that. So,
although I do want to say there is a pretty large group in the Republicans called Republicans for Choice. So again, I don't disagree that on average you are correct. I just think that we are plurals, and or someone myself. Can I give you my feedback on, and you know it pretty much already, but for clarity. So I don't consider myself a Republican, but a conservative. I do not believe that this, as a conservative, I believe that the government should stay out of our business as much as possible. And as a woman, I feel like it is my right to choose. I do feel, though, also as a Christian, that there should be limits.
I don't think, yeah, I think,
and I don't think even a lot of Democrats would argue that. So there are some people who, when they talk about abortion, are extreme, where it's like the week before they're about ready to give birth and they decide it's not a good choice and then they can abort. That I would say absolutely not.
Yeah.
If you had a incident where you got pregnant accidentally and God forbid it was something horrible, incest or rape, I'm absolutely. I'm not against. I'm against abortion for myself. I am not against abortion for other people, but I do think, because as I understand it, Roe v. Wade, at this point you can have an abortion pretty much at almost any point in the pregnancy. And I don't agree with that. I think different states have different rules.
I think most people don't agree with that.
Exactly.
I want to make that clear.
I think most people don't.
A revision on that would mostly be nominal.
That's what I'm saying. And I don't think
no one really. I think that's no. Yeah, I agree with what you're saying completely. But I think that's to say that it's like Roe v. Wade allows anything. I would say that most people wouldn't do that, and the people that would, there'd probably be a bigger story there. And I'd also like to add that you are totally right. That there's a large subset of Republicans that are for choice, but the thing is, she's not one of them.
Okay,
so
but again,
and I agree, and it's important to note that when I'm making broad statements like that, they're just incorrect, and I thank you for calling me out on them. But what we're talking about,
welcome.
Yeah, what we're talking about right now is Barrett, and Barrett is a Republican who doesn't like abortion, and she doesn't like she's a Republican, which is not all Republicans,
right?
And she doesn't like it she's Christian. My worry is she's very loyal to this church, which is completely within her God-given American rights.
Do we know that she's very loyal to this church?
Yes, I did. I did some research in it. The conservatives and the liberals agree that she's not like cultist loyal. I mean, in no way to imply that.
But there has been a lot of media talking about how this church was the basis of the story of the Handmaid's Tale, and it's false. That's false.
That's hearsay.
It's not hearsay. It's not true.
It doesn't matter.
And so I think that there's been a lot of fervor built up in the media on how intensely involved she is with this church, where she might not be quite as intensely involved as the media has led us to believe.
The Handmaid's Tale thing,
that was stupid.
I think that's stupid. Whatever, it's not true, but it also doesn't matter, frankly. If you look at what they believe, you can get like on there, and I'm not saying you go to New York Times or CNN and you look up, what do these people? I'm saying go to their website, People of Peace.
Okay, I like that.
Look up what
firsthand research.
Look up what they believe, and you'll be able to get all the information you need. And it's not like it's not it's sure as hell not going to be biased
Yeah.
if you get it from
No.
there. But my point is, what I've been trying to say is that she's a Republican with strong ties to this church, and I'm not saying that they're like cult level ties. I'm saying, yeah, I would say that there's quite a few people I know in my life that have very strong ties to their church, and that's completely fine. But it's important to note that that church does not believe in abortion, you
Okay.
know,
All right.
completely again in their American rights, and she doesn't believe in abortion, and she could say to herself and to the American people
Mm-hmm.
that she doesn't want Roe v. Wade to be a thing anymore because of her Republican ideals and how it's just killing babies. And it could be in the back of her head that what's just what she's telling herself, when really it's a Christian ideal that she's forcing on the American people because she's a Christian. And I am a Christian myself. This isn't. I'm happy to announce
I
that.
think that there's a lot of what's the word I want to use? There's a lot of media muckraking on that issue. I really am not concerned about Roe versus Wade being overturned. That said, I'm not in a position where I'm concerned about
That
getting
affecting you.
pregnant, and
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. So I recognize that. But what are some other issues that you find that you really just disagree with her about, or that you
Gay rights, you know,
Mm-hmm.
that was something I looked up, and the Republicans made no mention of it. So I would like to note that for my liberal point of views, being as though they didn't want to talk about it, and the conservative point of view, maybe it's not a big deal as the liberals are making it out to be. So consider
Mm-hmm.
those two options. But she voted against gay marriage. She's one of those
Oh,
people.
wait, she voted against gay marriage.
Mm-hmm.
When? I don't know that I know this.
That was I forget where it was. I read that in an article. I
Okay.
need to. We can put it in the link. We can
Well,
reference
I
it.
know
But
that she was part of the trial of the cake maker
mm,
in
she voted. Yeah, she
Colorado,
voted against that as
right?
well.
But that passed. And here, can we talk about that case, or were you going somewhere and I
Oh,
interrupted you?
yeah, we can talk about it in just a second. All I
Okay.
was going to say there was that she when she was asked about like gay marriage and like what she planned to do when she was on the Supreme Court, she was just like, you know, silent about it. And of course, that means nothing. But I feel like most people, at least most people my age and most people in the political scene right now, liberals, conservatives alike, are respecting the right of gay people to marry.
Absolutely.
And when she was asked, like, like, how do you feel about gay marriage? She was completely silent. She didn't need to say, oh,
But that's okay, because if she doesn't like it herself, who cares?
well,
As
she
long
was
as she
asked,
doesn't
yeah,
rule on that, because I would absolutely agree. And then here's where I am from a conservative point of view. I, again, not being Republican, not be conservative, being more of a classical liberal than conservative is, I don't care if you are gay. I don't care what color you are. I don't care what religion you are. Is you do you, and I think that's a very conservative, actual,
mm,
more maybe even libertarian point of view. So she might not believe it for herself. I don't, for me, being gay is not for me.
well, also
But
you have to note that in her religion,
mm,
which is separate from mainstream Catholicism and Protestant
it is, it
religions,
is. You're right.
which
You're
is
right. I
not
did.
bad, not a
Right.
bad thing. I
Right.
just want to make that clear. Um, it's a little bit not aggressive, but very not super accepting of gay people, which is also can be a universal Christian thing. But I think a lot of the churches have modernized
Oh yeah.
and ignored that. But
Yes.
and it's just important to note that I was paying attention when that reporter asked her what the Supreme Court justice felt, how the Supreme Court Justice Barrett felt about gay marriage, and she stood there and she didn't say anything. You look at her voting history, voting against gay marriage. I think she was one of the people that was in that group that said, "Oh yeah, we're okay with gay people, but they can't get married." And voting against the cake thing, which is again another strange thing.
And the cake thing, though, we just have to make the
Well, one
distinction.
second.
Okay, all right.
One
I'm
second.
sorry. Go
And
ahead.
I looked at her and I looked at the voting history and I
Mm-hmm.
saw her face when they were like, "How do you feel about gay marriage?" And she was like, "I'd rather not discuss that right now." And it just worried me because I'm
Mm.
not the smartest person ever. I don't claim to be.
I think you're pretty smart.
Pretty smart. But I drew some dots right there. I made some connections and I was like, well, that worries. I'm not saying it is this is how it is because
Mm-hmm.
Finn says it is. I'm saying I saw that. I saw her face. I paid attention to her religion. I saw her commitment to it, and I was worried for my friends and for every person in America who has the God-given right to be gay and
Mm-hmm.
is gay in America. And it
Mm-hmm.
worried me. And I wasn't not making any damnations on her, but I'm worried.
Okay. So what do you think that, so your biggest fear is that she would overturn the right for gays to marry?
And of course, Roe v. Wade. But yes,
Okay.
both those things are very present in my mind.
Okay. I would say I have a hard, I don't, I think so many people in the United States, conservatives and liberals and progressives and whatnot alike, would just lose their minds.
It's all about how you word things nowadays. I mean, you can find a way to justify anything, and that's another thing that scares me. So I wouldn't be surprised.
On all sides, you can find any way to
Oh,
justify
correct. Completely correct. It's just in this case it has a personal
it.
indentation to me. So I would not be nothing surprises me anymore. After this year, I'm surprised by nothing in the political scheme, and you can talk till the cows come home and you will get people on your side for something. So it worries me. I'm not
Mhm.
gonna go protest. I'm not gonna go scream about anything, but it is on my mind. It keeps me up sometimes.
What do your friends talk about her with any
I don't really
concern?
listen to my friends very much. I'm gonna be completely honest.
That's not true at all.
No, when my friends
But you
make
came home
intelligent,
and you were very concerned because you have a number of gay friends, as do I. And so I was assuming that you were having
no,
these like someone had said to you, my rights are going to be taken away.
God no,
No. So
no,
this was just something
no.
that you were.
I don't. Yeah, it's yeah. I don't. I listen to my friends when they make good points, but this is something I thought myself, and here I am saying acting like I make good points all the time. I guess you guys can judge that, but
You didn't
um,
make a good point when you didn't make your hot chocolate for yourself.
yeah, that was pretty stupid. But yeah, I just worry. I worry for my friends. I worry for everyone who has the rights that they enjoy right now. Anytime, for me at least, anytime rights are doled back or stripped away, I'm worried and I pay attention to that because it's very rare, unless there's chaos in the streets, that rights, like your unalienable human rights, should be pushed back. And I would make for anyone, anytime in the future, past, an example of rights being taken away. It's usually never been considered a good thing. And rights being pushed forward, that's always a thing.
Okay, and I hear what you're saying there, and I think I absolutely agree with you. I think that both sides though have a fear because I think that the more conservative side has a fear of like freedom of speech rights being taken away from them. And we've seen a lot of, it's not necessarily the rights have been taken away, but there's been a lot of doxing. As it recently, there were people saying that anyone who has anything to do with Trump, that to release their names and they'll never get a job again. So that's like a freedom being taken away too. So I'm really worried on all sides. And I would absolutely, going back to, sorry, I took a side turn there, but going back to Amy Coney Barrett, no rights have been taken away as of yet. I do
As
believe
of
she
yet.
is a constitutionalist and originalist, and I would, if she were to take away the rights that you have just mentioned, even as a conservative, I would stand beside you in that fight. And I just believe that I have faith in what I've seen with her and how she has ruled in the past, that she does so with a lot of clarity and a lot of consideration of the current situations in the United States.
It's important to note, though, Mom, that there's never well, there has been, but it is very rare in our history and in almost universal history for rights to be just straight,
Yeah, it's often
complete. It's a chip
it's
away
a chip away, and
process,
then all of a sudden
and
they're
then
gone.
you
Yeah,
wake up one
yeah,
day, and then it's like,
yeah.
oh,
What?
it
They're
start
just
it
gone.
started off as like,
Yep,
oh,
yep,
a
yep,
tax on gay marriage, and now
yeah.
you just can't get married.
Absolutely.
Or
Now you,
like, maybe it's not you
yeah.
can't get married. Maybe it's something akin to like the when black suffrage was made universal in the 1800s, and the southern states got the right to make a voter's test,
No.
and they would give, yeah,
Yes.
maybe it's something along the
You.
lines of the tax is insanely high and only
Yep.
the richest gay people can get married.
Yep.
Like, well, it's still legal. I didn't do it.
Yeah.
We just added some tax, and then it's essentially de facto not legal. So these are all things to be worried about when you're hearing me talk. And if you're like,
Yep.
this kid's, oh, this is never going to happen. Well, pay attention because it might not happen like you
No,
think
you're
it's going to
right. You're
happen.
absolutely right. And that is the way that most rights get taken away. Is they're just chipped away until one day, little by little, that you're not noticing, and then one day you wake up and it's gone.
Well, the abortion rights is an even more like even more better example than
Mo
the
better.
mo better example than gay rights, because for abortion rights, I think the first thing you do is be like, well, I believe in states' rights. It has nothing to do with abortion, but I believe in states' rights about abortion, so states can decide. Then, of course, Texas, where we live, Texas, where we live, is going to say no abortion. Alabama, Mississippi, no abortion. Other southern states, and then you have all this injustice for these poor people that can't get abortions because God forbid my 16-year-old ass were to have a kid. My
Yeah, God
parents,
forbid.
God forbid, my parents love me and are have enough money, thankfully, to, if that were to happen, take me to uh, California, where you can get an abortion. But for all the
Or
imagine,
maybe we just raised your
or
baby.
maybe we just raised my baby.
I'd
But
be a grandmother way too young, but
for this example, we could do that if that's what needed to happen.
I
And then
understand.
and
Yes,
then there's all these
yes.
people that when
Mm-hmm.
if abortion rights are taken away in Texas, there's a poor girl across the street from us who gets pregnant accidentally,
Mm-hmm.
and has to raise a kid at 16, 15 because Amy Coney Barrett believed in states' rights and not abortion rights. And it worries me that that's what happens because yeah.
Yeah, you know what? I know I agree with you. And I think what I got out of this conversation is to be aware of these little things that could, I don't think they're being chipped away yet, but I think that your concern of them slowly being chipped away is absolutely valid. And it's something to look for, because I couldn't agree with you more that rights just usually you don't wake up one morning and a right's been taken away. It's just slowly chipped away. And I see that happening, like I already mentioned before, I won't go off on my tangent again, in so many other ways. So for me, I think that I'm happy that you are paying attention to these little issues, and I will start to do so as well. I don't have the same concerns, but that doesn't mean I won't be watching.
Mm-hmm. And another thing to watch out for. I'll get off my
All
soapbox.
right, because I'm
Another,
almost done with my
yeah,
drink, so wrap it up.
I'll get off my soapbox. But another thing to watch for, and this is something that I've learned myself, is when people are telling you that you have nothing to worry about rights being taken away, that people are worrying about. That's when you really want to pay attention to the small things, because the small things add up quickly. And when someone tells you not to worry about it, that's when you worry about it.
My only concern, Finn, and we'll end with this, is it's not that we shouldn't be concerned with the small things, because you're absolutely right. Small things add up to big things. My concern is sometimes the small things get such media time that it puts us into this a frenzy that ended up saying that Amy Coney Barrett's group was the basis of the Handmaiden's Tale, which was a complete, absolutely false. And so so you have to be worried, but you also have to temper it with research and reality. So when we get worried about little things and we let these little things blow up into big things when they're not even things, that's my concern. And that's the tempering that I think that we all need to do, is be paying attention. Don't let your guard down, but also don't make mountains out of molehills. Keep yourself guarded and do your research, do your work, and I guess basically just again pay attention.
I would argue that sometimes, not all the times, I agree with you, but sometimes you're ignored when you don't make mountains out of molehills.
You
Sometimes you get brushed over, and then what you're afraid of happening just keeps on happening because no one pays attention to it.
But if you're ever vigilant, like we're having doing right now, if you're ever vigilant, I think that you can continue to have the conversations that we're having now and create a society that is smart, vigilant, aware,
Mm.
but not also overreacting, panicked. And that's the whole point of these
And
conversations.
that is where we completely agree, because an eternal truth is
Hit me with a good quote. Hit me with
okay.
a good quote. Come on.
The price of freedom is eternal vigilance, and I implore
Ooh, who said that? Do you know?
some really smart guy named Finn Higginbotham.
No, I'm gonna have to look that up.
No, it was it's the motto for Trinity University.
Okay.
But
I like that one. The price of peace is eternal vigilance.
Yes, the
Ooh,
price
nice
of freedom.
Oh, price of freedom.
The price of free gets even deeper. So to all those lovely listeners out there, I would implore you to be ever vigilant for whatever you believe in, whether it's liberal, conservative, or in between. Don't take your eye off the ball. Stand up for it, and make sure that you're paying attention.
All right. All right. I love you.
Love you too, Pamela.
Go finish your homework. Bye, Finn.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Hold My Drink. Like or subscribe to the show and check out the show notes for links to source material and to our website where you can find what each of us is reading every week, different news with different views. If you have a topic that you would like us to explore, drop us a line. And join us next week as we say Hold My Drink and the conversation gets real.